Hello, I'm Jenny Fern and welcome to my library. I'm a chaotic neutral mechanical engineer who's really into permaculture and wants to talk about books. So let's talk about books. Today I have the beginning of a series of tips for reading. And this is a goal that I have this year, to make a video every couple months that focuses on tips for people getting into reading. Today I want to focus all on tips for people who would really like to read, but they feel like they keep getting distracted. If you think that sometimes you struggle a little bit with being distracted when you're reading, this is for you. I have definitely experienced feeling distracted while reading, having things both in my mind and externally that affect my ability to read. So I would like to share some things that I personally have found really helpful. I'm going to split this into the physical distractions and then the internal distractions, or I guess the external distractions and the internal distractions. External distractions, I'm talking about loud sounds, chaotic environments, your phone notifications, that kind of thing. My first tip really is to read at times when there are less external distractions. For example, when I was a kid, I didn't read a lot, and it was because my house was very fraught and distracting. There was really loud TV, there was shouting, and it was like not a good, quiet, peaceful environment. It was a bad time. So now that I'm an adult, I'm so appreciative that I'm able to control my own environment. But if you are in the situation where you can't control your own environment, there are probably times in the day where you have moments of peace, and you may want to try to sneak your reading in at those times. If I think back to when I was a kid, that would be when my parents went to bed and I was still awake. I could have chosen to read books instead of watching The Simple Life, which is what I did do. And Viva La Bam. So, I was that kind of child. So I can totally relate to anybody who feels like they're just not at a time or place in their life where reading is possible. But again, I recommend you find those little times where you won't have as many distractions. For me especially, I find that this is right before I go to sleep and right when I wake up. So right when I go to sleep, there's no really expectations for me of what I should be doing, besides, quieting down, winding down, and sleeping. And so for me, that's an excellent time for me to get a little bit of reading in. And I might read a little bit of a physical book with my little lamp on, and then when I want to turn the light off, I will read either on my phone or on an e-reader. And I used my phone to read books up until this year. It is entirely possible, and you can get so many books from your local library system. I think in many cases you can get digital copies from your library system, and you don't even have to go to the library. You can just get a temporary library card and be able to access the digital materials through your library. Where I live, we have an excellent library system with lots of access to books digitally. That's usually what I do at nighttime. It's peaceful. We're supposed to be going to sleep. When I was in college, I also found times that I was waiting for the bus, that I was waiting for classes to start, where I would like a distraction. It was easy to fit in reading a book on my phone. Now in the mornings, I also find that a nice peaceful time, because I'm the only person awake in my household besides all my animals. I have to feed all my animals. So I usually listen to an audiobook for about 45 minutes while I'm getting ready in the morning. So while I'm putting on my makeup, while I'm feeding the animals, while I'm making a little breakfast for myself, during that time, I'm reading an audiobook. And those are kind of the peaceful bookends to my day where I'm able to read. So I really find reading in the dark helpful if you get easily distracted by things around you, because there's not even any visual input. And that's why I really recommend reading books on your phone or your e-reader, because you don't have to have a lamp on. Technology, so cool sometimes. Sometimes I also struggle with, if I'm reading alone, I can get pretty creeped out. Like, you hear the wind, you hear like the creaks of your house. And in those times, I actually do like to have a little bit of like ambient noise to make it feel like I'm less alone. And so in those cases, I'll put on either some music or like an ambient environment kind of video. I'll put that up on my TV, or I'll play some random series on the TV that I'm completely disinterested in, just to have those kinds of noises happening. I don't know if other people have that problem, but if it's like dead silent and I'm alone, I have a hard time focusing on my reading compared to just the feelings of like, and the paranoias of being alone. And yeah, you'll just have to find what kind of environments are helpful to you. Maybe you like reading in coffee shops, maybe you like reading in the park, maybe you prefer to read in your home like I usually do. And you'll also have to find those times where you feel less distracted. The other big thing for a lot of people are notifications and the lure of the phone. I love reading on my phone. That's tenable for me. I know for a lot of people that's really tempting. So you can just physically remove yourself from your phone. Put your phone in the charger, put it in your bedroom, you read on the couch in your living room, something like that. Just physically remove yourself from your phone. Or like, if you're in high school or something, you put your phone on your desk, you sit yourself in your bed, and then it's far enough away that it would be annoying to go get that object. The other thing that has really helped me is not having as many push notifications. If I get notifications from some app that I'm like, I don't need notifications for this, I'll just, boop, turn off the notifications for almost everything. I don't even have notifications for Duolingo. Shut that bird up. I can carry on my life without having as many like little things popping up. So that's really helpful if you're reading, and especially if you're reading on your phone. Also, silence your notifications if you're reading, because you don't need that like thing where you're like, oh my god, what is awaiting for me over there? Like it could just be like a fucking Zillow listing or something stupid that you don't need. That's my tip for the external distractions. Now, something that I struggle with more nowadays are the internal distractions. That's because I have a very active mind, and I also struggle with spiraling with anxiety. So in those cases, these are my tips for if you are distracted by your own brain. In those cases, sometimes surrounding yourself with the book can be really helpful. And by that I mean, you get the audiobook, you have the physical copy or the digital copy, you plug that baby in, you read along, and you can focus a lot more on the words as they come in through your ears and through your eyes. That can be really helpful if you're having a hard time focusing. The other thing that I've found, if there's something particularly dense, the faster I can read it, the easier it is for me not to get distracted. It might be the opposite for you, but for me, I might push my audiobook up to 3x and read physically. It sounds a little crazy, but then there's no room. There's no room for your brain to go anywhere else. That's sometimes what I have to do. It can be a little bit extreme, but sometimes I do that. I actually find that for myself and the way that my brain works, I find myself more distracted when I'm reading an audiobook than a physical copy or a digital book. What I do to combat that is doing something physically with my body or with my hands. If I just sit, I still to this day can't do this. Just sit and listen to an audiobook. I don't know if people do that, but there's no way. There's no way There have been times where I'm not doing enough while listening to an audiobook, and 10 minutes later, I'll be off in my own little world in my brain thinking about all these other things. 10 minutes later, I'll pop back into the book and I'll be like, no idea what's going on. Because that book will just leave you behind. It's cruising at its own speed and you're not there. So I find in that case, if that's a problem that you're experiencing, sometimes increasing the speed can be really helpful. I know if people are talking too slowly, I'll be somewhere else. So crank up that speed if you're anything like me, and then also do something else with your body. You could go for a walk, you could do the dishes. That's really helpful for me. You could garden or paint, draw, anything like that, and listen to an audiobook. I know for me, one of the best ways to listen to audiobooks is if I'm doing something that I already find really boring and I want a distraction, so like doing the dishes, for example, then that audiobook comes in so clutch and I'm not distracted from the audiobook because it is my distraction. It's great. If you're waiting for the bus and you're bored as hell, use that book as a distraction, baby. Like, take your weakness and use it. One of the things that I struggled with the most when I was first getting back into reading as an adult was reading the same line over and over again. And that can be really discouraging, and you can't get sunk into the story that way. So one of my big tips for that is to get a digital copy of the book and blow up the font so that it's large enough that you will not be able to not progress to the next line. It might look bad. It might look stupid. You might be self-conscious if you're reading a huge font thing in public, but it has helped me so much. And I don't even remember the last time that I've got tripped up on going to the next line. And it used to be something that I struggled with so much as a kid, and I never found a way around it. And then when I started reading as an adult, I blew that font up, got used to it, and now I'm a reader, baby. Anyway, that's my last tip. I would so appreciate, especially if your brain works differently from mine, if you would leave in the comments tips that help you avoid getting distracted while you're reading, because I think sometimes the tips could be opposite to each other depending on how your brain works. And I think for me, I'm a little chaotic up here. If you enjoyed this, please consider sharing it with a friend who would also enjoy it. Also, please consider subscribing and liking the video, and I will be back again soon. Thank you.